Welcome back to the BigCeaz Show, where we dive into the stories that go beyond the box score. Today's guest is someone who's not only covered the biggest moments in Florida sports, but has done it in style, heart, and a fierce commitment in storytelling. She's a familiar face to the Florida Panthers and Miami Marlins fans, bringing insight, poise, and energy to every sideline report and studio show. She's not just a sports reporter. She's a trailblazer who grinded her way through sports and has earned her spot in the most respected voice in the game. We're talking about Emmy recognition, deep knowledge, and a whole lot of heart. Please welcome to the show none other than Jessica Blaylock. Jessica, welcome to the Big C Show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. This is how I know that I have finally made it. Is
Oh my gosh.
I'm a guest on the
Don't make me
Big
blush.
Show.
That's awesome. Wow, it's been a crazy last few weeks, right?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's been, again, a dream come true, right? I think we were all
Amazing.
so thrilled that the Panthers won the cup last season, and you know how difficult it is to repeat, let alone get to a Stanley Cup final, but to go 3 years in a row, to win it in back-to-back seasons. I mean, we are truly in the golden age of Florida Panthers hockey, and I am just trying to soak up every single second of it.
For real. So let's kind of talk a little bit about the Panthers, and then we'll go into how it all started with you and in your career here with the Florida Panthers. Um, Bill Zito is such an amazing GM. I don't know how he doesn't win General Manager of the Year.
I
This
know.
is 3 years in a row now that he got snubbed. Um, what do you think about all that?
I am in constant awe of what Bill Zito is able to pull off. And I think one of the things that has continually struck me about him as a general manager is he truly has the ability to not just have a feel for a player's ability to add to the product on the ice. He has such a feel for how a player is going to fit into this culture and fit into this team. And I think it's a big reason why we currently have the dressing room that we have. We currently have the culture that we have, is that it truly matters to Bill Zito and his staff, not just the quality of player, but the quality of their character as well. And he's just done such a tremendous job, from
Right?
day one, just finding the perfect pieces that fit so well. And not just players that were coming off of really good seasons like a Matthew Tkachuk, but players that he saw potential in, like a Sam Bennett, right? Like a Carter Verhaeghe, who was kind of buried in Tampa's depth. And he sees not only what guys have done, but he sees the potential in them. And
Right.
so it's incredibly impressive. The fact that he has not been named GM of the year is
It's mind-boggling.
it's mind-boggling. You literally took the words right out of my mouth. It is
It,
mind-boggling because when I look at the standard of GM, not just in hockey, in all four
and
major
all
sports,
of like in baseball,
Bill
football,
Zito sets the bar for elite general manager.
and I think it helps too that he was able to be an agent, a player's agent. He got to a chance to
Yeah.
get to know the players, and I was kind of going to ask you, do you see in the future maybe agents becoming more general managers now that Bill Zito has led the way?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because one of the things that Bill Zito probably has an advantage with is understanding things from a player's perspective since he was a former agent. So, it's a unique ability to take things into consideration from both a player's perspective and the organization's perspective. And it's probably one of the reasons he's so good at what he does. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more agents become interested in the line of being a general manager because of what Bill Zito has been able to do and the fact that he has been so incredibly successful at it.
right? And I think like him being involved in sports at a younger level. I know he talked about being a grounds crew or bat boy for a baseball team, just being around the players in the locker room, having that interaction, having that personal relationship. I think that goes a long way because sometimes we tend to forget these players are human too. They have lives outside of the sports. So I think that's a big thing that that helps him, and, I definitely see a lot of that happening. I could definitely see it happening more, not just in hockey, but in sports in general, right?
Well, and it also gives you a perspective on how hard these guys work, right? And the time
Yeah.
that they put in. And it's not just the practice days, it's the dedication to their diet and weight training and conditioning. And it's the time on the road away from their families. And, there's so much more that goes into being a successful athlete than just, oh yeah, making sure you work hard at practice or making sure you lay it all out on the ice during a game. So I think that's another great thing about Bill and just his career trajectory is he's had the opportunity to spend so much time around these guys and truly on the ground level.
Yeah.
I think really has an appreciation for everything that they pour into to be successful at their sport.
So let's kind of take it back a little bit to when Bill Zito got here. Um, his vision was, the first thing was changing the culture. And I thought maybe making that Matthew Kachuk trade from Jonathan Huberdeau, who scored the most points on the team that year. Um, I was so upset that he traded Huberdeau. Huberdeau and I go back when he got drafted. Amazing person off the ice. Just got an opportunity to meet him personally. Introduced me to his family. He messages me every now and then on Instagram and stuff. So that goes to tell you how nice of a guy he is. But then I got to learn who Matthew Kachuk is, and for
Yeah.
Bill Zito to have the cojones to do something like that, I thought was amazing, incredible by him. But you and I were talking before we started recording, how it goes beyond that. Kind of explain to our fans of what changed here as a Florida Panthers in the culture wise.
Yeah, I think one of the most significant moves that Bill Zito made was bringing in Patrick Hornquist. And I say that for a couple of different reasons. Number one, Patrick Hornquist came in and did not accept losing, did not tolerate losing, right? Um, and, and said, no, we're not going to be okay with a loss. Um, and had the credibility to back up what he would say, how he would lead in the dressing room because he had won multiple cups. And also he was holding guys to a standard that he was already holding himself to 150%, 200% more. I
And
think
he was
also,
always, I think he was always the guy, the first one on and the last one off the ice
yeah,
too.
yeah. And then the second part is Alexander Barkov is an incredible captain, but
Amazing.
Barkey is a lead by example. Barkey is a I lead by leaving it all out there on the ice, the way that I play, how hard I work. I think Barkov speaks up when he really feels like he has to, but I think 95 to 99% of his leadership style is to lead by example. I think
And
Patrick Hornquist came in, and because Hornquist had no problem being a vocal leader, I think it
right.
took some pressure off of Barkov. Truly, I really do believe that it took some pressure off of Barkov. Have to worry about that vocal style leadership. And it was this wonderful blend of Hornquist helping to keep guys accountable because he would be willing to get in your face and he would be willing to call out if something wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Um, and it just allowed Barkov the freedom to lead by example. And I think it was this wonderful, perfect blend of leadership. But I've said this for years now. I think Patrick Hornquist changed the culture. I think Radko Gudas changed the physicality. And I
Yes.
think Matthew Tkachuk changed the compete level, especially from an emotional perspective. And just to go back to what you were saying, when it came to that trade for Tkachuk, I think it was an emotional trade for everybody. I had an emotional reaction to it too.
Right.
But once you removed the emotional side of it,
Hmm.
I remember thinking, "Ooh, this is a good trade that could actually potentially end up being a great trade." And I mean, you've seen it. We've all seen it. What Matthew Tkachuk has done, what he's brought to this team, the way he makes everybody feel like they're a part of it. And I know you're one of the number one people
Oh,
that can speak to that. It's one of my favorite
yes.
things about Matthew is he truly makes everyone feel like they are a part of it. There is nobody on the outside looking in when it comes to Matthew Tkachuk. Um, he is just love him or hate him, the way he plays on the ice, that's fine. But you cannot deny that he is just a good quality human being. And what he's done, I mean, it really was. It was a franchise changing trade. And it took, like you said, it took a lot of guts to pull the trigger on that because there was definitely some hostility towards the move by fans,
Right.
which again, knowing the emotional connection, knowing Huberdeau was this franchise cornerstone, obviously understandable. But Bill, as always, knew exactly what he was doing, and it was a move that truly is going to go down as one of those franchise changing moves by Bill Zito, the acquisition of Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, and I kind of saw, taking the personal aspect of it away. The first time I seen him interviewed the day after he got traded, and for Matthew Kachuk saying that he hates Tampa Bay,
Yeah.
and that's like, okay, I love this guy.
I hate Edmonton, but I hate Tampa more now. Yeah, it was
Yes, that
it
was
was
I
a
was
great
iconic,
quote,
right?
all-time
It's
quote.
like, all right. And Tampa was all that team that we wanted to be, right?
Right.
They won 3 Stanley Cups 3 years in a row, or 2 years in 2 Stanley Cups in a row, 3 Stanley Cups total in the last 6 years. So our standard was to be up to their standard, right? And I think Matthew Kachuk brought that
Yep.
edge to Florida that we needed just to get over the hump.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that is the Battle of Florida has become truly one of the great rivalries in the NHL. And a big reason why is because it's so much more even now, right? For so
Yeah,
many years, Tampa was kind of the big brother running the state of Florida, was kind of that model franchise of how you wanted to play, what you wanted your team to look like. And over the past handful of years, the Panthers have really shifted the dynamic in that rivalry. And it's one of the reasons it's become so fun is because it's two really, really good teams that truly every time they meet, it is a battle.
yeah,
It is a physical battle. It's an emotional battle. It's a battle of skill. It's a battle of goaltending. It's a battle of special teams.
everything.
It's a defensive battle. It's just so much fun. It's so much fun.
Now, kind of shifting to Florida has signed all 3 guys now. Um, I think they're the front runners next year. Um, although Vegas did sign Mitch Marner, um, there are some questionable. pickups by LA, but I don't really see anybody else in the league that's really improved or done something to compete with Florida.
Yeah, I think that the Panthers will 100% go into next season as the Stanley Cup favorite based on the odds makers. And
Which
I
is kind of crazy because last year, right? They weren't even the favorites. They're
right,
Stanley Cup champions, and nobody gave them a chance
right. I
at
think
all.
Edmonton was the favorite coming into last season very early on, if I remember correctly. But what's so impressive is the Panthers are still basically the exact same team, maybe a few changes. Obviously, congratulations to Nate Schmidt for signing the deal that he did with Utah.
I love that guy
Yeah, and he's so deserving of it, so
very
deserving.
well.
But then look, the Panthers go and they get Jeff Petrie, to fill in that spot, and that's something that Bill Zito has also been so great about is finding these pieces. Because obviously, year in year out, you are going to have some of these moving parts. But he's done such a great job to find these pieces to complement the core group of players that we have here, and just kind of going back to being able to re-sign all three guys, Sam Bennett, Aaron Ekblad, Brad Marchand. First off, shout out to all three of those guys for being
Oh
able to
man.
make it work,
Yeah,
right?
especially Ekblad
Yeah,
taking that team friendly deal. He was constantly saying, "This is home. This is
yeah.
home," and I remember talking to him at 11, and being able to tell him that I got to meet his brother, such an amazing person.
Who also looks exactly like him.
Dude, for real. Like
Exactly like him.
when he came up to me, I was like, "Wait a minute, that looks familiar." And then he literally noticed me. He goes, "Big C's." I was like, "What?" He's like, "I'm Ekblad's brother." I'm like, "I thought you were Ekblad." I'm
I
like, "Aren't you
know. I
supposed to
know.
be on the ice?"
Yeah.
No, but really awesome guy, and it goes to tell you or show you how much he loves Florida, how much he loves the community, how much
Right.
he loves what they built here in Florida. And a couple of years ago when he was due for that contract, he set the market for defensemen, right? So, for him to take this friendly deal, I think speaks volume of who the person
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, really all three of them, right? And
Yeah,
number one shows what has been created here. Shows the culture that exists, that guys want to stay. They want to be a part of it, even if it comes at a cost to their own personal pocketbook or points or, whatever it might be. They put themselves on the back burner for the better of the team, which is amazing. And just also how important each one of those guys is to this team. And that includes Brad Marchand, even only, being here
amazing,
for a couple of months. So,
right?
starting with Sam Bennett, Paul Maurice always refers to him as an identity player. It is such a
And
luxury in
You know,
this day and age.
it's funny you say that because I go at it with my cats and rats crew all the time. They're always looking about the numbers and the points, and I'm like, guys, what he brings in the locker room and in the playoffs is so valuable that I think it's really hard to replace.
Yeah. Well, and not just what he does in the playoffs, because obviously he has proven time and time again why his nickname is Playoff Sam. But even in the regular season, it is such a luxury to have a highly skilled forward who plays such a physical brand of hockey.
Yes,
And so I think that's so often why Paul Maurice refers to Bennett as an identity player, because you look at the Florida Panthers, they are a team that has a lot of skill, a lot of skill. But what is their identity?
the grit,
Defense, grit, strong forecheck. And Bennett does all of the hard things on top of being a skilled forward. When it comes to Aaron Ekblad, I tell people all the time, I don't think Ekblad gets enough credit for
right,
how unselfish he was in completely changing his style of play for the better of the team. Aaron
right,
Ekblad came into this league as an offensive minded defenseman and put up a lot of points offensively. But what did he do a couple years ago when Paul Maurice came in? He changed his
completely.
style of play from top to bottom to be a stay-at-home defenseman, and did so at a pretty big cost to his personal points.
Yeah.
And now he is part of one of the best defensive D pairs in the entire league between him
Him
and
and
Kucherov.
Forsling. They could be. You could argue they're the best defensive pairing in the league.
Easily, easily. And then Brad Marchand, how quickly he fit in with this
Oh my
team,
gosh.
to the point that it felt like he had been a Panther for years, not just
Right?
months. The chemistry that he developed with Anton Lundell and Eetu Luostarinen, and
Oh,
how good that is our team's third line.
it's
That could be
crazy.
some teams' top line with
And it's
how good they.
crazy because now we
So
get to see them together for a full
yeah,
year next year.
yeah.
So I could just imagine. I think Etu is going to have a career year next year, especially with Brad Marchand on his wing. Just the way Brad likes to set up his players, he's unbelievable, and it's going to be incredible next year.
Well, and all three of those guys have such a similar style of play in the sense that they can put the puck in the back of the net, but they all get back defensively.
Yes,
And I think it speaks so much to why they are so successful as line mates is because they have such a similar identity as players. And so it's really not surprising at the end of the day that there was so much chemistry so early on, and that line was able to produce the way that they did in the playoffs, especially. But yeah, I'm so pumped that they get to stay intact, and I cannot wait to see what they're going to do when they have a full regular season to play together as well.
I know it's going to be so much fun to watch,
Yeah.
and I'm excited. And you know, Samoskevich, I think he's a player that he like the way he ended up playing this year too, getting that taste of being in the NHL for a full year. Now he's going to have the off season to prepare and maybe gain some muscle. And I think he's going to be a big part of this team as well. And I'm looking forward. And I know he hasn't signed his deal yet, but hopefully, I know Bill Zito will get that done. No question about it. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this team has to do.
Well, and Mackie Samoskevich in particular, such a similar trajectory to Anton Lundell in the fact that, Lundy's rookie season, he had a great rookie season.
Right?
And then in the playoffs, he ended up getting benched for a little bit, right? And so it's all part of this learning experience of how to have success in the regular season. And then you got to learn how that translates into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And these young players have to go through this process of learning and evolving. Lundell went through it, and I feel like Mackie went through it this year. And
Right?
it's only going to serve to benefit him in the long run because look at what a powerhouse Lundell is in the playoffs now. But all of that is because of how that first season played out for him and what he was able to learn, in particular in the playoffs when he wasn't necessarily always getting the playing time. And I think Mackie is going to have a similar trajectory as Lundell, where it's only going to help Mackie grow in the big picture and in the long run and make
And
him that much better of a player.
And what a great person to learn from than Brad Marchand, a guy who's not that big, uses his size to an advantage, can
Yeah.
just maneuver through players, right? And I think Mackey's going to benefit a lot from having Marchand there, and it's going to only help him to get better.
Yeah, and Mackie is already such a big part of the culture too, right? Like, and that's kind of what you love about this Panthers dressing room. Um, and it's why I thought their celebration on the ice with the cup was so
Oh,
that Barkov
it was
handed the
so
cup off to Nate Schmidt and Vanacek and Mackey. Mackey had the chance to take his lap with the cup before Reinhardt, before Kachuk,
before
before
Kachuk.
Bennett, before
Yep.
Bob, before, and for Mackey to feel like he is just as valued as any of these other guys, I think is so important for his confidence and for him to know he is a significant part of this team, right? And I
Yes,
think it's really exciting because we saw, like, Mackey was such a great fit with Bennett and Kachuk on that second line.
he was.
And I think we got a taste of Mackey's potential and how good he can be. And I think it's one of the players and one of the storylines that I'm most excited about going into next season is the continued development of Mackey Samoskevich and where his game is just going to continue to go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And let's I kind of talk about how selfless this group is. No one on this team cares how many points they score, how
Yep.
many goals they score, how many assists they have. And, literally any guy could have as many 3 or 4 goals in one night. They don't care. They're so selfless, and that goes to show how tight knit they are in the locker room, how much they care about each other, and they only care about one thing, and that one thing is winning, the
Yeah.
winning attitude.
Yeah. And I think so much of that, and this is something you hear Paul Maurice speak a lot about, so much of that stems from Alexander Barkov and the fact that Barkey treats Jonah Gadjevich the
I
exact same
love it.
way that he treats Sam Reinhart. Barkov treats AJ Greer, Seth Jones, Nate Schmidt, whoever you want to name, from the team this past year. Barkov treats them exactly the same as he treats his line mates. He doesn't consider anybody more important than anybody else. And I think that is the beauty of this team. And again, coach talks about this. You'll walk into where they eat, where they hang out after practice, and you've got Dmitry Kulikov sitting at a table with Mackey Samoskevich and Tomas Nosek and Anton Lundell. There's no
It's like,
cliques. There's no division between
right?
anybody. They all, I mean, look at the picture of who went to get Dairy Queen with Brad Marchand. It was such a mix of players and
It's just
positions and
amazing.
like I just love that. I love that.
Yeah,
It's truly a democracy. There's true equality in that dressing room. And I think it's a big reason why they have so much success out on the ice because they are truly, truly playing for one another and they don't want to let anybody down, right? They don't want to let any of their teammates down. So they are playing just as hard. The fourth line is playing just as hard as the top line.
yeah.
And I don't know, it's just so cool to see because I just think that's such a rare thing to have the type of relationships that Panthers dressing room has with one another.
And for them to welcome in new players, right?
Yeah,
And someone that we
absolutely.
haven't really talked about, who I think was a very, very critical part of this Florida Panther team this year, Seth Jones.
Yeah.
What an acquisition. Um, I said it before we even traded him on our Cats and Rats podcast. This is a guy I'm looking for. I would love to have him on our team. Even though his numbers aren't great in Chicago, I just know that he's played with Paul Maurice before, and I know what he can bring to the table. And lo and behold, Bill Zito got him in here, and he was one of our best. Actually, I think personally, he was our best defenseman since we acquired him. Coming in the playoffs, the minutes he had, nobody knew that Aaron Ekblad was going to be suspended for those
Right.
games. If Seth Jones isn't here, who knows where we fall in the standings, right? So I think he was a big part of this team this year.
And that's one thing that I always go back to with Seth Jones is the responsibility that he took on when
Yes,
we traded for him. And like you said, obviously unfortunate with the Aaron Ekblad suspension, but that forced Seth Jones into the limelight and it forced Seth Jones into a position of playing 25, 26, 27 minutes a night.
I think he was like 28 minutes at one point.
Give Jones a ton of credit too, because he comes over, he's learning a brand new system. He's trying to fit in with a brand new team. He starts out playing with Nico Mikkola, then moves up to that top pairing alongside Gustav Forsling. He's taken on the toughest defensive assignments of whatever team you're playing against. He's also being counted on, when it comes to special teams. So that is a lot to take on in a very short amount of time. And I think obviously there was a little bit of a stretch where we did see him just getting comfortable and finding his way. But when it finally clicked, when he finally kind of turned that corner, saw what he was capable of. And not only that he can play this structured defensive style of Paul Maurice's, but that he is also a guy that's going to be able to put up points and still has a lot of skill. And again, another guy that has a lot of talent and upside to still be unlocked. And I love hearing Paul Maurice talk about Seth Jones and how excited he gets and how good he feels this guy can still be. And so again, just another piece that Bill Zito goes out and acquires and ends up fitting in so seamlessly with this team.
Yeah, and I love what Paul Maurice said. He has a chance to be one of the best defensemen in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't even gone through training camp. He hasn't gone through a full season with Florida. So he's like, I see the potential of him just getting better and better and better. And a lot of people in our community think we're crazy, but I mean, look what he did in the playoffs. Look what he did in the short amount of time. And let's give credit to him because he took so much time to watching video and getting to learn the system. Like, you don't just go into the team and then just go out there and play. No, he took the time to work at it and to be the best defenseman on the team.
Yeah,
So
and I
kudos
think
to him.
and it's no disrespect to Chicago, but obviously Chicago's in a much different place with where their team is than the Florida Panthers. And so when you take a guy who has been playing in a lot of games where his team is chasing the game, and then you put him in to a situation where there's a lot more asked of you.
Yep.
But it's a good thing because it makes you have to elevate your game to what is being asked of you. I think it's just a completely different situation for him. And I think a situation that is going to really be able to take full advantage of his skill set as a player.
Totally agree. So let's kind of change things a little bit differently now that we talk a little bit of Florida hockey. I want to get to know a little bit about Jessica Blaylock. Take us back to young Jessica Blaylock playing hockey in Jacksonville. What lit the fire in you and to becoming who you are?
Well, what's funny is I actually had never played hockey. I've seen that circulate a little bit online.
Really?
I used to play hockey, and
that is crazy. Okay.
That is not true. I was an athlete. I was a swimmer though. I was a competitive swimmer for 10 years. And I played volleyball as well. So I did love sports, and I grew up in a household that loved sports. But I never played hockey. In fact, I didn't even really discover hockey until 2013. So 15 years ago, I couldn't have even told you what a power play was. But I'm skipping ahead. We'll get to the hockey part in a second. But yes, so I'm very lucky in the sense that I always knew I wanted to be a TV reporter. I took a journalism class in middle school in 7th grade when I was 12 years old. I got to do the morning announcements on TV for our middle school, and I just loved it. And I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. So I knew from 12 years old on, I wanted to be a reporter on TV. And then in high school, my junior year of high school, I grew up a big University of Florida Gators fan. the Gator basketball team went to the national championship game and played Michigan State. And I fell in love with that Gator basketball team. And I remember thinking to myself, it would be so much fun to cover sports. So when I was 17, I knew I wanted to be a sports reporter. So I went to the University of Florida, studied journalism, volunteered to cover any sport that I could, ended up connecting with ESPN, got a job out of college working behind the scenes for ESPN on their Thursday night college football show and their Saturday primetime college basketball show. Did that for about 5-6 years. My crew was awesome, knew I wanted to be in front of the camera, so they would shoot different things all around the country for me. Nothing ever aired, but it was just good practice. So I ended up sending out a resume reel to a bunch of different places, and Fox Sports Florida gave me an opportunity. I covered high school basketball, state finals, back-to-back weekends for them, first the guys, then the girls, and a month later, they asked if I wanted to start covering the NBA. So I covered the
Wow.
Orlando Magic for 5 seasons, and then had the opportunity to cover the Marlins, moved down here 10 years ago for that,
Yep.
and then got the opportunity to cover the Panthers later on that year. So that's really how I got involved covering hockey, was just getting the opportunity once I moved down here for baseball. But yeah, it was 2013. I saw the highlights on SportsCenter from Game 7 between Boston and Toronto, and how Boston overcame, I think, like a 3-goal deficit in the third period to end up winning it in overtime.
It was crazy.
And
That was that game was insane.
I'm so mad. I just missed this like all time, postseason game, right? Playoff game. And so I was like, my dad's from right outside Boston. I'll cover, or I'll watch the Bruins. I'll follow the Bruins. And sure enough, the next game, round 2, Boston, New York Rangers. Guess who scores the game winner in OT? Brad Marchand. And I
Yep.
fell in love with hockey. So actually, I got to give a shout out to Brad Marchand. He is the player that got me hooked on hockey. So it's kind of cool that it's full circle that he's now playing for the Florida Panthers.
That's awesome. And how did these early jobs shape you, your work today with the Florida Panthers?
So I think one of the things that I learned is, even though I didn't necessarily have experience covering these sports before I got the opportunity, I learned just like the value of hard work, the value of
Right.
putting in the time, the value of listening, like the value of not being afraid to ask questions, the value of continuing to learn even after you've covered a sport for a decade, right? I don't ever want to reach a point where I feel like, oh, I have finally mastered hockey. I'm never going to master hockey, right?
Kind
Like,
of the old saying of never be satisfied.
yeah, and I remember, I'll never forget, one of the first interviews that I did when I actually moved down here to cover the Marlins. It was during spring training, and it was with Martin Prado, who was one of my
I love
absolute
that guy.
all-time
W-
favorite human beings,
So
all-time favorite athletes.
I'm a big Braves fan, like you know, and
uh,
he was one of my all-time
the
favorite
best.
players.
He is, honestly, he's one of my favorite people. But I will never forget asking Prado about, being a veteran and all the years that he had played and all the experience he had. And he looked at me and he said, the most important lesson I've ever learned is, as soon as I think I have this game mastered, it will find a way to humble me. And I think that's such a beautiful approach for anything in life, right? As soon as we
It's
feel
so
like we
true.
have something mastered, it will find a way to humble you. So I've never forgotten about that. And it's the way that I always want to approach my career, that no matter how long I cover a team, no matter how well I get to know players, there's always something I can still be learning. There's always something I can still get better at. And so I think that's one of the big things that I've learned, not just from like the moment I first stepped into covering a new sport for the first time,
Yeah.
but even after getting a lot of experience with a sport or with a team. I just never want to feel like I've reached the point where I don't need to keep working harder.
Yeah, and I think if once we reach that point, then it's like maybe we need to find something else, or maybe we need to like do something differently, right? So
Yeah.
No, and I think that's really important in life in general, which goes to what I always say, like one shift at a time, one period at a time, and one game at a time.
Yeah,
And, just take that moment and always continue to get better every single day
yeah.
for that. So totally agree. What's a game or a moment that really sticks out with you on the ice or on the field?
Ichiro getting to 3,000 hits.
Kirby from Cats and Rats podcast is gonna love this. He's a big Seattle Mariners fan. So yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So just, I mean, first off, getting to cover the Marlins when they had Ichiro and the Florida Panthers when they had Jaromir Jagr, like to get to cover those two players at the same time,
Insane, right?
mind blowing.
Two
Um,
legends.
but Ichiro getting to 3,000, first off, realizing what a rare accomplishment that is in Major League Baseball, and that I had a front row seat. That game was in Colorado against the Rockies, and it was a stand up triple. So Ichiro lands on third base, and I'm literally sitting, 10 feet away, 15 feet away in the camera well. And I have this amazing front row seat to this monster milestone for this just elite player, right? Like elite Hall of Fame player. And I just remember in that moment how just the gratitude I felt for the life that I got to lead and these moments that I got to be a part of, and getting to ask Ichiro questions in the post game press conference. And it was such a historic moment. Not just for Major League Baseball, but obviously all of these baseball fans in Japan who adore Ichiro with all of their heart. And yeah, that probably to me is one of the coolest moments in my career that I've ever had the opportunity to be a part of.
That's amazing. And I hear he's such a humble person. He's
Oh, he's
always
he's awesome.
so that's awesome to hear that, Jess. Um, how do you prepare for a broadcast, especially when it's crazy and fast moving game like baseball compared to base or to hockey compared to baseball?
Well, the one thing that was always unique too between baseball and hockey was, for the most part, with baseball, I was sideline reporting, versus with hockey for the last couple seasons, I've predominantly been hosting. So it's a much different way of preparing for games, because as a sideline reporter, you're looking to add to the broadcast from not necessarily always an X's and O's perspective. You're looking to help make a connection between the fans and the players.
Right.
I always thought that was one of my biggest responsibilities as a sideline reporter, was to help fans get to know these players better as people. The X's and O's are going to speak for themselves, but what's something that I can tell you about this guy that you're going to feel like you get to know him better as a person, as just what you said earlier, that these players are so much more than the position that they play, right?
Yes.
Um, and so, but then from a hosting perspective, a lot of it is I am basically setting up Jovo um,
Awesome.
to break down a topic, right? So, like, I still need to know about what we're talking about. Um, but it's so much more like, I'm not the analyst, I'm not the professional. I didn't play hockey for years, right? So like my perspective as a host is, how can I help also set up Jovo to help people understand the game better at home? And like, that's one thing that I'm still curious about after all this time, is sometimes I'll follow up with Jovo on something and ask a question because I'm still learning and I'm still curious and I want to know. So I think that's really the difference. My perspective as a sideline reporter is to help people get to know these players as people. My perspective as a host is to help people at home who didn't have a chance to play the game understand the game better, by me doing as good of a job as I can to set up my analysts to break down the game.
And there's no one that does it better, in my opinion, than you do.
Oh,
And
thank
you just the ability to interact with the players and just getting to know the players in general, and your connection with Jovo and whoever's out there with Goldie or Randy Moeller, it's second to none. And which is why here in Florida, we love listening to you guys every day. So that we thank you guys for that as well.
Well, thank you very much for the support. That's one thing I've always been so appreciative of is how amazing Marlins fans have been to me and how amazing Florida Panther fans have been to me. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I feel the love every day.
Awesome. Awesome. So kind of going into breaking barriers, what is it like being a woman in a locker room or on the sideline? Any moments where you had to push through unfair assumptions?
I think I think a couple of the things throughout the course of my career that have been more on the challenging side is I do think it takes a little bit longer for women to earn trust and to earn credibility. I feel like a lot of times men usually get that right away. People just assume, oh, of course they know what they're talking about, right? Whereas for a woman, it may take a little bit longer, but I think if you're willing to put in the time and you're willing to put in the hard work, that's really ultimately what matters. I think that guys are just as willing to give you their trust and their respect, even if maybe every once in a while it takes a little bit more time to earn, which I'm fine with. I want to know that I've earned somebody's trust. I want to know that I've earned somebody's respect. Those things should be earned, not given right away, you know? And so you also know once you have earned them, you really genuinely have them. And then maybe the only other challenge, and this one's a little bit silly. I get a little bit more of a harsher critique of what I look like than maybe men do. Right? For women and what their makeup looks like, what their hair looks like, what their outfit looks like, whether or not people like it. I think sometimes you have to take those things into consideration, but I don't think at the end of the day that stuff really matters. And I really honestly like I've seen super nice comments about what I look like. I've seen super mean comments about what I look like. I really, at the end of the day, know that's not anything that really shapes who I am as a reporter or a host or whatever role I'm serving on a broadcast. So those kind of things make me laugh more than anything. But I do think that there is definitely a little bit of a higher standard for women and the way they look on camera than there is for men.
Perfect. Totally agree. And I think being a woman, you've done so much for the women community and just leaping boundaries, and the success that you've had just is so inspiring to other young women in that wants to be in the industry, right? So what would you say, or what advice would you give to a young woman who wants to do what you're doing?
I, I would say a lot of things. Number one, I would say always be willing to put the work in, right? That's the biggest thing is just always be willing to be the hardest working person in the room because you can get an opportunity, you can get your foot in the door, but the one thing that's always going to keep you there is being willing to work hard. Um, I would definitely say, and this is a huge one, don't let anybody else determine your self-worth or your value. You know, this is an industry where you're kind of out there, you know, you are in the public eye. And like we talked about earlier, there are going to be people who think you are the greatest thing that has ever happened to a broadcast. And there's going to be people who you're just not their taste, you know, and that's
Yeah.
okay. If you take your self-worth and your value and you give it to other people to determine, you're constantly going to be on this roller coaster ride of emotions of how you feel about yourself. So you have to make a decision that only you get to determine your self-worth, your value. And if you know you prepared as hard as you could, you know that you worked as hard as you could, then that's at the end of the day what you can rest your laurels on, right? Um, Show yourself grace, learn how to let mistakes go. I remember at the very beginning of my career, if I stumbled over a word, if I screwed up a stat, if I mispronounced something, I would spend the rest of the night thinking about it.
I'm with you there.
And I finally had to learn we're all human. Like there
Yes.
is nobody's ever gone through life without making a mistake or stumbling over a word or tripping up in a sentence. So I finally just had to learn, you know what? It's okay to make a mistake. It just means that I'm human. And now if I make a mistake, I laugh about it and move on. I literally earlier this season, I was going to throw to an interview with Mackie Samoskevich, and I literally said Mackie Sandwich and had to
Oh
correct
my God.
myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just called Mackie Sandwich. And Jovo looked at me and we just started cracking up
That's
because
amazing.
it just happens, right? Like a word gets caught in your mouth, and next thing you know, you're saying Mackie Sandwich. So early in my career, like that probably would have destroyed me, and I would have gone home. I would have gone home and been like, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going to recover from this." And now I think like Katie threw it back, and I was like, Mackie Samoskevich, nailed it that time. Like I just make a joke out of it and move on.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, learning how to show yourself grace, especially in an industry where your mistakes are broadcast to an audience,
Right.
I think it'll take you a long way in just your self-confidence and learning that it's okay to be human.
It
So
is. And I kind of had one of those moments 2 days ago on our live stream where somebody wrote something about my pronunciation, and I thought it said pronouns. The guys just started laughing, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, did I just say that?" And we just laughed about it and made a
yeah,
joke about it. And I think if we just roll it off and just enjoy the moment and just not make it a big deal, I think people are like, "Okay, well, if she can make a mistake and she's this big or he's this big, then I shouldn't be afraid to make mistakes." And I
yeah,
think that's something as an athlete too. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just be able to learn from it and take light into it, right? And don't
yeah,
make it a big deal.
yeah. We are all human.
Awesome. So let's kind of go into your fitness, family, and life off the camera. Um, you run half marathons and are into strengths and all that stuff and working out. How does that help you stay grounded in such a crazy and wild schedule?
I think that it's kind of a combination of two different things when it comes to working out. Number one, just like the natural high you get from doing something good for yourself. But number two, I love music so much. Like music
Awesome.
can change my whole mood. I usually always have music on. I always listen to music when I'm at the gym or on a run or riding my bike or whatever it is. And so I think it's just kind of the calm, right? Like in the midst of sometimes like the craziness of your schedule, it's an opportunity to just kind of zone out and hit the reset button. And, whether that's going on a run outside and just kind of looking around and appreciating how beautiful the river walk is, or going and running by the beach and looking at the ocean and the palm trees and the sand, and or like lifting weights and knowing that it's gonna be something that's good for your body in the long run. It's just kind of a moment of, I think, knowing that you're doing something good for yourself, and also knowing it's a moment to just kind of shut down your mind for a few minutes, because I love what I do and it's one of the biggest blessings. I genuinely love what I do, but because of that, during a hockey season or previously during a baseball season, work is always on my mind, right?
Right.
Like I would take me forever to fall asleep because I would think about, well, what player do I need to talk to tomorrow? What stories do I want to do? Like, what do I have to get done? I would go through this whole checklist in my mind of just things that needed to be taken care of. So I think when I'm at the gym or when I'm going for a run or whatever it may be, it's just an opportunity to kind of just shut it down for a little bit. When so often, my mind is running at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's a great opportunity to decompress, get your mind off of
Yeah.
things, and just
You get after it with the weightlifting. I've seen
oh,
some of those videos, C's.
well, I got to get back more into it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely love listening to music, and working out is something that helps you mind, just take away all the stuff that you're dealing with during
Yeah.
the day, especially for me with my disability and the stuff that I go through every day, which is why I love sports. Because sports, it allows me for those 3 hours, 2 hours, whatnot, just to decompress, just to enjoy the game and enjoy something that I love doing. So music is such a big part of my life too. Just being able to just sit there and relax, listening depending on what mood you're feeling, right? Could be
Yeah.
rock, jazz, or whatever. It definitely helps out with our minds mentally, and because it's a grind doing what you're doing, and and this goes for all the athletes as well, and that's why they're humans as well. So anything we can do to ease our minds off of the everyday life that we go through, I think is really important.
Okay, so I'm going to flip it on you and ask you a
Ooh,
question because I always
perfect.
like finding this out. Who is your favorite band or
Ooh,
musician?
wow. So I'm kind of like old school. I love alternative rock. And
Okay.
one of my biggest, when I got out of the hospital 2.5 years ago after my induced coma, my best friend Shauna and Cam told me that they got Blink 182 tickets.
Nice.
I was so ecstatic because they were one of the bands that I grew up listening to in 2000s. And when we went to the concert, I had the best time of my life. And so listening to alternative rock, Green Day, Sum
Pearl
41,
Jam,
Pearl
Nirvana.
Jam,
Yeah.
Nirvana, all those, and people don't even know I actually used to play guitar.
Really?
So yeah, so Nirvana, "Smells Like Teen Spirits" was the first song I ever learned how to play. So, music has been always a big part of my life, and yeah, alternative rock is definitely my number one go-to.
We should start a band, C's. I can play the drums, not very
Okay,
well, but I
okay.
can. So between you on guitar, me on drums,
Hey, my
uh,
friend plays bass, Cam.
all
He's a
right,
good bass player, so there
there
we
we
go.
go. There, I just can't sing.
I can't sing,
Please
so
don't count on me to sing.
I was gonna say that's something I can't do, but I'll definitely try it for sure. um, let's kind of go into you're such a big dog lover, which I love,
Yeah,
and I work for Chewy, so that's my day job. Um,
love
tell
Chewy.
us a little bit about your dogs and animals. Uh, how close they are to your heart.
Oh my gosh, they are my entire heart. Like literally, they are my entire heart. My whole world is built around my dogs because I mean they are truly my children. And what's funny is I've always loved animals. But when I was working for ESPN, I didn't get a dog because I was traveling 4 or 5 days a week for months at a time. So I knew at the time my life wasn't conducive to having an animal. But sure enough, if an animal is meant to be, they will find you. And my first ever
Yep.
dog that I had, his name was Vito Corleone, Indiana Jones. Um, he, I found him in the middle of the road. He was wandering like in and out of traffic, and I saw him, and I'm the type of person that if I see an animal in the middle of the road, like I'm stopping traffic. I'm getting out. I am picking that
Like,
turtle
move
up
out the
or that
way.
like
Get out of Jessica Blaylock's
chasing
way.
that duck out of the road, whatever it may be. Like I literally stopped one time to rescue what I thought was a turtle, and it ended up being an empty green potato chip bag, but I'm still glad that I checked. But like, that's just
I
me.
love
Like,
it.
I will do whatever I need to do to help take care of an animal. So sure enough, I stopped, and this dog was a little Chihuahua Terrier mix, probably, 12 pounds. I picked him up, I put him in my car. He curled up, fell asleep in my lap, and he was mine from that day forward. So my first dog definitely found me. And then, of course, after I had him, I always wanted a dog, right? So I got Lemon a few years before Vito passed. And then when I moved down here to South Florida, Lemon, that's my girl. Like, that was my companionship. That's the one. I didn't know anybody really down here. So it was
Right.
Lemon and me every day, all day. And then I got Chester, and he was a great companion for me and for Lemon, and unfortunately unexpectedly passed from cancer a couple years ago. And so to honor his memory, I rescued Mario as a senior. So I rescued
And
Mario when he was about
Mario's the one
15.
we have on the screen right there,
Yes,
right?
right at the bottom, right there. That's Mr. Mario. Um, I saw him on a rescue website, and I was like, this dog is meant to be mine. And especially with him being 15 years old, a lot of times seniors sit,
Yeah.
because a lot of people understandably don't want to take on a senior knowing probably going to be kind of expensive with medical issues. You're not necessarily going to have a lot of time with them. But I couldn't imagine leaving Mario behind. So I went and got him, and he has come back to life, and he's thriving, and it's the most beautiful thing to see and to watch. And so right now it's me, it's still Lemon living her best life at 15, and Mr. Mario just thriving at 17 years old.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I'm a dog lover. I have two dogs. I have a black lab. His name is Charlie, and I have a Daisy, and she's a terrier mix. And they're completely polar opposites of each other. And but they get along so great. They sleep with each other, and I couldn't imagine my life without a fur baby.
Yeah,
They just
dogs are the
bring
best.
they
It is
bring
the
so
most.
much life to you. And I remember being in the hospital when I first came home. Daisy literally got on my bed and she would not leave my side.
Yeah, it's the most
Not,
unconditional love you'll
it's
ever experience.
amazing, right? It's like they knew what's going on, and they're like,
Absolutely.
so it's really awesome to have that companionship. Um, Kind of going into, you used your platform to support causes, um, and pet rescues. What drives you to that side of you?
I think I think I've always had a heart that wants to nurture. I love taking care of things. I always want to make sure everything knows that it has value and that it has worth. Whether that's people, specifically children. I love working with children. I volunteer at my church in the nursery with the 4 and unders. So I love working with kids. I love volunteering with kids, and I love especially animals. Right, like
Yeah.
everything has worth. Everything has value, and I always want people, animals, like I want everything to know that. I don't ever want anybody to feel that they're not deserving of knowing that they have worth. So I think that's probably the thing that drives my love, especially of animals, is I don't know. I want everything to be loved. That probably sounds like super cheesy, but
No, it's
I just want everything. Everything deserves to feel loved,
and
and so that's just a big part of it. I wish I could rescue every single animal. I wish I had just like a limitless amount of money to keep adopting every animal that needs a home. So that no animal has to go through their life without feeling loved. So yeah, so I think that that's probably the driving force is I want everything to know it has worth, and I want everything to feel loved and be taken care of.
Yeah, and it definitely shows with the way you present yourself
Thank
on
you.
the field, off on the ice and off the ice, in the studio or whatnot. You just seem so genuine with so much compassion and empathy that which a lot of our fans kind of gravitate towards you and they love you so much. So
That means the
we
world to me. Thank you. That's so sweet, and I really appreciate that.
of course, and kind of going into a little bit of a rapid fire before we end the show. I'm going to ask you a few questions here.
Okay, I'm ready.
Coffee or energy drinks before a game?
Oh gosh, I think I'm already so wired. Neither. I do love
Oh,
coffee.
interesting.
I have a cup of coffee every single morning. My brand of coffee is called Death Wish, which just shows you how strong it is.
I
But
love
after
coffee.
that, I don't allow myself to have any more coffee because I'm already like wired and all over the place. So I think if I had an energy drink or coffee before a show, I would just be off the charts. But if I had to pick between the two of them, coffee for sure. I'm not a big fan of energy drinks.
Awesome. Favorite Panther or Marlin interview moment?
Oh my gosh. That's a great question because there have just been so many good ones. Um, I don't know if I can single out just one. I mean, I'm got a million moments running through my head
Right?
of talking to Josh Bell or Jake Berger or Mackenzie Weegar was always one of my favorite Panthers to
I
talk
love
to because
Uyghur.
he is the most authentic, genuine human being. And Weegar always at the end of an interview thanked me by name. And that meant
Oh,
he always made it so personal. Um, oh my gosh, favorite. I would say, honestly, for baseball, any walk-off win because it's
oh
just
my gosh. I was going to ask, it has to be a walk-off win. Just getting that water or Gatorade,
yeah.
those moments when I see you on TV have to be so wild.
And honestly, like people would ask me all the time, like, "Oh my gosh, do you get so mad when they get you with the cooler?" And I'm like, "No, it's so much fun. Like these
Right?
guys would do it if they didn't think that you were a part of it, right?" So like anytime I got the Gatorade bath or the water cooler or whatever it was, I always thought it was so much fun because it reminded me that I was a part of it.
Right?
So I guess I'll go with any walk off win that I was ever a part of doing the post game interview, um, and maybe just any. I would say one of my favorite moments of getting to interview a Panther player was probably when we went to Finland and shot that show with Barkov.
Oh,
Because that's when I really, really, really genuinely got to know him. So I'm gonna go with that for
I
hockey.
love those two answers. And kind of going back to the Gatorade, like for me to experience um 11, for those of you that
Yeah.
didn't see it, Matthew Kachuk literally got me from the side and said, "You're coming here with us and you're going to celebrate with us." So that moment being able to celebrate with the boys made me feel like I was part of the team.
Oh, I love
And
you
there
and
is
Kachuk are
no
besties.
there
I love it.
it's amazing. And so I love your answer for those. Um kind of go let's move on here. Miami or Broward?
Broward. I live in Fort Lauderdale. I love Fort Lauderdale. I love
Shout out
Los
to the
Angeles.
954.
I absolutely. I mean, I love. There are so many great things to do in Miami. A lot of great restaurants, but Broward has my heart. I'll always live in Broward. I will always, yeah, I'm a Fort Lauderdale girl through and through.
Awesome. Call or text?
Text. I'm not a big phone talker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't
Interesting.
know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I talk so much
That
for
that
a
could be
living
very well.
that I just like I love FaceTiming with my mom and my family and my 5-year-old niece. But if for the most part, like I can say what I need to say via text.
It's crazy because I'm actually the opposite. I'd rather talk to somebody than text. So
I kind of love that though. I feel like we've become so accustomed to technology that maybe the art of actually having a conversation is getting a little bit lost. So I
yeah,
do love that you actually enjoy talking to people.
and maybe
I'm,
it's
I'm
just my personality, but
yeah,
like I'm always just like I'd rather just talk to you personally than
right.
just read a text. So
Yeah, I'm going to blame my texting habit on just the fact that in everyday life, I typically talk so much that maybe I just need a breather every once in a while.
right, and totally agree. Uh, Elbow room or 11?
I'll go elbow room because I've actually never been to 11.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and I have been to elbow room several times, and I love that it's old school. I love that it's cash only. I love that it's right on Fort Lauderdale Beach. I mean, I only live a couple miles away from the elbow room, so I can ride my bike there. I think I'm getting a little too old for 11. I maybe have missed my window.
I kind of felt like that too. I'm like, this is definitely not really my vibe. But for this moment with the
Oh no,
players,
C's, you were living your best life at 11, and I was all about it. I loved all of the videos. Like I was actually super jealous. But yeah, I think at this point in my life, being in my 40s, I need a little bit of like a slower pace, a
yeah.
little bit more like low key. So I'll definitely go elbow room
And there's nothing better than just, hanging out by the beach,
for sure.
drinking a margarita or some wine, which I know is your favorite.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Good
definitely.
glass of red wine, I'm
Exactly.
in.
Um, Cats or rats?
Ooh. That's a great question. I'll go rats, only because I am embracing this villain era of the Florida Panthers. I am completely digging the pure hatred and jealousy that exists towards this team. Like, I just think it's hilarious to see how angry people are getting at like the way the Panthers are celebrating and all of this different stuff. So I am fully embracing the rat mentality right now.
Oh, busy boy.
That's so
I love that
perfect.
answer. Last question, or for this rapid fire, one word that describes your journey.
Blessed. Just so unbelievably over the top to the depths of my soul. Blessed, thankful, gratitude, dream come true, right? I mean, I look back on my journey. This is what I always wanted to do with my life. Every day that I get up, I'm living my dream. You know, how many people get to say that?
I know.
So I just, I feel incredibly blessed, and not only to be living my dream every day, but to get to cover this team during this run, to get to be a part of it day in and day out. Um, Even the last 10 years of baseball, some of the moments I've had the chance to experience, I've covered all four major sports in some capacity. Um, Insanely, ridiculously blessed, and shame on me if I ever take a day of it for granted.
I love those answers. And truly amazing. Um, I know that I said that was the last question, but being able to use my platform and being able to have my own podcast now, um, how has sports impacted you in a positive way throughout your life?
I think just the sheer joy it's brought me in so many different ways, not only from at one point being able to be an athlete, and especially something like swimming, which is a little bit more of a niche, I don't know if I'm saying that right, niche
Yeesh.
sport. Yeah, put that one down as one of the words that people can make fun of me about because I don't know if I said it correctly. But I loved swimming. I loved swimming. I loved playing volleyball. I have so many great memories of, being an athlete, spending my summers at the pool, playing volleyball in middle school and high school. So sports has just brought me so much joy, not only from a personal perspective of being able to be involved, but from sports defining my career, and shaping my whole trajectory in life. Sports being what I wanted to cover in my career. So it's literally everything, everything. Sports has been the way that I've connected with my dad. We've shared our love of baseball. We've shared our love of college football and college basketball. And my mom is a huge sports fan, and she was always my biggest cheerleader at all of my individual sporting events. And so yeah, it's just really it's shaped my life in every single possible way. So yeah, I have a big thank you to say to just sports in general as well, for all of the different ways that all the sports I've covered, all the sports I've played in, have impacted my life.
That's awesome, and you definitely paved the way for young women, people or young women that want to become a sports broadcaster or become in the industry. You're second to none, one of the best.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, and it's an honor to have you on the Big C Show. Your journey is inspiring. Your work speaks volumes, and your heart for the game, the people around it, shows what it's all about. And any last words for our listeners?
I would say back at you, Big C's. We all love you. You're an inspiration. You put a smile on all of our faces every day with what you do and your passion for the teams that you love. It's so evident with the way that the players have responded to you, to know how important you are to this season and this journey for the Florida Panthers in particular. So we love you, Big C's, and
Thank
thank you
you
for
so
having me.
much. Awesome. Thank you. And we appreciate everyone. And thanks again. Until next time.